Welcome to the Family Answer Man podcast. Today's episode is a best of episode where we're doing a recap of the top 10 questions that we've been asked on the Family Answer Man from a Biblical Worldview. I'm your host, David Orges, and I'm here with Dr. Mark Crosby, pastor, educator, marriage and family therapist, and resident expert on the Family Answer Man podcast, where we tackle tough questions that families face and discuss practical solutions that really do work. This podcast is not a therapy session, and we're not able to give specific advice to your situations. But we do believe that mental and spiritual health are very serious issues, and family dynamics can be and often are very complicated. So, for in-depth answers to your questions, we want to encourage you to seek professional counsel specific to your unique circumstances. Now, if you would take a second right now just to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell, it'll make sure that you never miss an episode of the Family Answer Man. And if you're listening via podcast, take a moment to follow us, to rate and review the show, and on your favorite podcast app, leave that review. It really does help us out, and we appreciate it greatly. If our content has helped you out at all, please share the Family Answer Man with your friends, with your family, so they can join you on this journey of building stronger, healthier, and happier families. Well, Dr. Mark, we are here today, and we're doing a little bit different format for the show.
Yes.
And I think I'm excited about it.
Yes.
I think this is going to work out really well. We're going to be answering and kind of giving some brief, maybe summaries or recaps of the answers to the top 10 questions that we've gotten over the course of the last year plus. Yeah. Sometimes we get questions that come in that are they're kind of duplicates, and we'll either synthesize questions or we'll have questions that'll come in multiple times. And so I think this is going to be a fun way for us to maybe you'll hear your question read today in one form or fashion. So excited about this show.
This ought to be good because, again, we all have questions. And the reality is we all want answers. And sometimes the reality also is we often have some of the same questions. Yeah. My question may be very similar to your question when it comes to marriage or family or the church or the things, that are necessary and important to raising, happy children, whatever it may be. So we all have these questions. They may have a different twist to some degree. They may have a different emphasis to some degree. But the reality is the questions are pretty much the same.
Yeah. So we've got 10 for today. Hopefully we'll get through all 10. If we don't, we could pick them up in another episode.
That's right.
But these are going to be rapid fire. So are you ready?
Go for it.
All right. So question number 1 is, what are the 4 laws of marriage? What are the 4 major laws of marriage?
Yeah, Dr. Jimmy Evans came out with what he called the 4 marital laws, the 4 laws of marriage, based on the book of Genesis chapter 2, when God created and ordained marriage. The first one is the law of priority, basically saying that marriage does not work unless it is in first place, that marriage must be the priority, that the husband and the wife must see each other as a priority. And the reason why that's so important is because when we have children, when we start our career, when we really are involved and invested in a unique hobby that we really love, whatever that hobby may be, sometimes if we're not careful, the marriage will take second place or third place or fourth place. And what begins to happen is things begin to break down. And the husband and the wife look at each other and go, what's going on? How come we're not as close? How come we're not as intimate? How come we're not as joyful? How come we don't care as deeply as we did when we were first married? And we go, well, we have these children and we have these careers and we have this hobby and we have all these things. And what they're actually saying is something has taken priority over the marriage.
Yeah.
So marriage must be, number 1, priority. Number 2, very similar to that one, is the law of purity. And the law of purity basically says nothing comes between us. Not another person, not a argument or an attitude. Nothing comes between us. We try to keep our communication lines open. We try to keep our love and our care, flowing between each other. So we don't want anything to come between us. So the law of purity is very important. Thirdly, you have the law of purpose. What is our purpose? What is our goal? What are we wanting to do as a family, as a couple? What is it that we feel is necessary and needed for us to be the family, the couple that we need to be? And so what is our purpose as not only individual, but as a husband and wife, as a family? We all know that individually you must have purpose in order to thrive well in life. I know my purpose. I know what I need to do. I know how I need to achieve it, etc. But also as a family, as a married couple, we need to have a purpose. And then fourthly is the law of pursuit, that you never stop pursuing your spouse. You never stop trying to make life good for them. And you never stop, trying to really have them feel that you're wanting them and desiring them and needing them and wanting to embrace them, if you will. So the law of pursuit. Now, what happens is for so many couples, once they're married, they take on the notion of, well, I got her. Okay. Or I got him, and so I don't have to look as good, act as good, smell as good, be as good, as I did when we were dating. And so many couples will say, what just happened here? When we were dating, you were just pursuing me and you were just loving and you were just caring and you were going the extra mile and you're doing all these things. But once we got married, you stopped. What happened?
Yeah.
And so the law of pursuit needs to continue throughout your marriage, wanting to look nice, wanting to be nice, wanting to be thoughtful and considerate on special occasions and special days. And so that law of pursuit. So those 4 laws, I think Dr. Jimmy Evans has brought into the marriage and family circle, if you will, of therapy. And they have really been, I think, an eye-opener for many couples when they begin to realize, hey, we've broken some of these laws. We made our kids the priority, or we stopped pursuing each other, or we never really established what our purpose is, or yes, we did allow Facebook or social media or someone from our past or our ex or our in-laws got in the way or got between us and kept us from really enjoying that connection, that attachment that's so very important. So yeah, those 4 laws are very, very important.
You have 4 laws: priority, purity, purpose, and pursuit, all that come from Genesis chapter 2.
Exactly.
All right. Question number 2 for the day is what 6 things must couples build their marriage on? So what are the 6 pillars of a healthy marriage?
And we've talked about this one many times before, but for those who are listening, maybe those who are new to our show or listening for the first time, there are 6 primary pillars that we are to build our marriage on. And the way I try to explain it is if you go see your physician, there's certain things your physician wants to see to determine whether or not you're healthy. They want to look at blood pressure. They want to look at glucose levels. They want to look at cholesterol levels. They want to look at, your heart rate. They want to look at your oxygen levels, et cetera. And so if all those numbers meet the criteria of a healthy person, then they can say with some accuracy, you're healthy. Well, so it is with marriage. There are 6 things that our marriage is built upon that must, again, all be strong. And if they're not strong, if one is weak, it's going to put stress on the other 5. If 2 are weak, it's going to put stress on the other 4, et cetera. So the first thing is finances. Now, we don't think or like to think, in most cases, that finances are a very powerful, important part of the romantic part of marriage.
Right. Not always romantic.
But
spreadsheets.
Exactly. But it is crucial. And by that, I mean this. You need to be on the same page as far as your financial philosophy. How much are we going to save? How much are we going to give? For our listening audience, we always encourage give to your church, and then give to yourself. Yeah. And then pay your bills. And then pay down your debt. And then enjoy the rest.
So it's a good formula.
Yeah, if couples would do that, and I'll repeat that again for those who are maybe just now tuning in, if you want your finances to work well for you, then pay God, if you will, pay yourself, pay your bills, pay down your debt, and then enjoy the rest. Many couples, however, when they first start a marriage, do just the opposite. Right. We want to enjoy our money.
First, yep.
We're going to try to deal with some of our debt. We'll pay our bills. We'll pay ourselves. And then if there's anything left over, we'll pay God.
Right.
And so many couples then who do it in that manner basically begin to ask themselves, why do we not have money? What happened? But if you go just the opposite, pay God, pay yourself, pay your bills, pay down your debt, and then enjoy the rest, then you'll have money. So finance is the first one. Second of all is intimacy. The level of intimacy being both your relational intimacy, being open, being honest, being transparent, as well as your physical intimacy. I mean, that's a very important part of marriage. God created an entire book of the Bible, the Song of Solomon, about that very issue. Thirdly is, what is our spiritual and religious view? Do we have a similar spiritual and religious view, biblical view of life and of God and of salvation and of worship, etc.? Are we on the same page?
Yeah.
Fourthly, what is our parenting philosophy? Have we decided how many children we want, how we're going to raise them, how we're going to discipline them? When will we expect them to start working or start dating, or what kind of grades are we expecting from them? And the list goes on. And what other areas of parenting are important to us? Do we allow them to play sports? Do we allow them to play contact sports? These, individual sports or team sports. So these are all things that we need to be thinking through and being on the same page. The fifth pillar is good boundaries with exes and in-laws. So many times, a couple will allow their in-laws to get in the way, or to be a controlling family member, if you will, that tries to control where they spend the holidays, where they spend Sunday afternoons, or whatever it may be. Or sometimes an ex, maybe an ex-spouse, or sometimes an ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, whomever, will try to keep coming back into the picture, maybe very subtly, through Facebook or through a text message, or through, hey, I saw you, at the restaurant and I forgot how good you looked, and I just want to say how amazing you are, and I remember the great times we had and all that. There needs to be boundaries there. And there's not proper boundaries, that can get in the way, kind of going back to our law of purity. And then number 6, do we have something that we look at that's entirely our thing? For some people, it's camping or boating or dancing or fishing or golfing or tennis or whatever it may be. But it's something that we do together, something that we look forward to doing, something that we enjoy doing, something that we talk about once we've gotten involved in whatever activity that would be. But it's our thing. So once again, real quickly, finances, intimacy, spirituality, children, boundaries with exes and in-laws, and number 6, our thing, our fun, what we enjoy together. So those 6 pillars are powerful, and they're important to build your marriage upon.
So if we build on those 6 pillars, you have a really high percentage chance of
you have a good percentage of that your marriage is going to be strong, healthy, successful, and may I even add happy.
There you go. Stronger, healthier, happier
families.
That's
exactly right. Those are the 6 pillars that we must build on, that we must agree on as a husband and wife.
Okay, well, that leads to our third question. I guess it doesn't really lead. We're going to transition a little bit, shift gears.
Okay.
So this one's fun. This one is the attention getter sometimes. What is a psychopath?
Okay.
So what is a psychopath?
Well, a psychopath, basically, that's a very generic term that actually means sick mind. Okay. So the word psychopath just simply means sick mind. But if you're going to be clinical about that term, basically what you're talking about is a person that has been described as having antisocial personality disorder.
Okay.
Now, that phrase antisocial can be a little misleading, because it doesn't mean I don't like society per se. What it means is I do not conform to society.
So it's not necessarily an introvert.
Right.
Somebody that doesn't conform.
Right. So basically, if you would read the diagnostic manual, it'd say something like this. These individuals fail to conform to social norms. They don't respect lawful behaviors, and they repeat acts that, again, are grounds for arrest. So that's the first thing. Second thing is they're deceitful. They have lots of lies. They use lots of aliases, and they hurt others and con other people for personal profit or pleasure. Thirdly, they're impulsive. They do not plan to do anything. They just are very impulsive, and they fail to plan ahead. Next, they're very irritable and aggressive. They, again, want to get involved in physical fights or assaults. Next, they're very reckless concerning the safety of themselves or other people. Next, they're very consistent in being very irresponsible. They, again, fail to plan ahead. They have no consistent work behavior, nor do they honor any financial obligation. And last of all, they lack any remorse as to hurting anyone, and they rationalize any hurt or mistreatment that they have brought to another person. So that is basically your proverbial antisocial personality disorder, but in generic terms called the psychopath. These individuals are dangerous. These individuals will say things and do things that are hurtful and painful, and it doesn't matter where they are. Church, family, business, whatever setting, it doesn't matter. They're a very dangerous person, and you have to be careful and watchful of them. There's an old saying that says that not every psychopath is a serial killer, but every serial killer is a psychopath. And so that's important to note. So these individuals are very dangerous, and they make up what we call the cluster. They're in the cluster B of the diagnostic manual concerning personality disorders.
So yeah, and cluster B is personality disorders.
Right.
So with a psychopath, is this, you said you need to be careful, they can be dangerous. Do they have any limitations on what they're willing to do?
Not really, because again, there's no remorse. Now they may have some personal social moray or value that they will not cross. They may be aware that if they do certain things that they could land in jail or they could, be imprisoned for a long period of time. But the reality is that those deterrents are the only things that keep them from acting out or hurting or doing something that would be harmful to another person.
Not societal norms, but they're just their own personal convictions that they've decided.
Their own personal convictions that sometimes are based on societal norms, meaning, hey, I know if I break into someone's house and rob them, I could go to jail, kind of thing. Yeah. But for the most part, they are not, again, limited, because if they feel like that's what they want to do or need to do, they may not care and just do it anyway because they have no remorse and they have no real boundaries or convictions. And so therefore they do pretty much whatever they feel like they need to do until the law or society stops them.
Okay. So that is the psychopath in a nutshell.
Exactly.
So there we go.
Exactly.
So that brings us to our next question for today. Again, these are rapid fire.
Sure.
A lot of fun. If you have a question that you'd like to ask on the Family Answer Man, we would love to hear from you. You can email us at familyanswerman@liveoak.church. And again, we love answering these questions. So the next question, shifting gears again, hopefully, away from the psychopath, is what are the basic needs in marriage?
Yeah, we've talked about that. And something that we mention often, and that is, the reason why we get married is to have our needs met. I will argue we've been wired, to love and to be loved. And what does that look like? And what does that mean? And what is that about? And so the reality is that, men and women both have unique needs that can only be met in marriage. And for example, a wife needs, 4 major things. Number 1, she needs to feel valued. Valued and secured. So value equals security for a woman, and security means I'm valued. So that's number 1. Number 2, she needs meaningful romance as she defines it. Not as the husband defines it, but as she defines it. What is romantic for her? Is it a walk in the park? Is it, shopping? Is it sitting down in a very nice restaurant, looking nice and having a meal with someone you care about? What is romance to her? Is it just sitting in front of a television set, watching some old movies and just cuddling up together? So everyone has their own description and definition of romance. Number 3, what she also wants is meaningful communication. She wants to know what's going on in the heart and life of her spouse. She wants to know how they feel, what they want, what they desire, what they're interested in, how well things are for them at that moment. Are they mad, sad, or glad about life in the moment? And so that communication really does help a lot. That's why for most women, not all, but for most women, they love to talk and ask questions because they really do want to have that emotional connection through communication. Next, and the last one is most women want to be held. There's that physical touch that does not have to lead to anything, but simply that caress, that hug, that connection physically when you first see each other after a long day's work, before you leave to go to work. Whatever it may be, but that hug, that being held is very, very important. For men, it's about appreciation. Most men want to be appreciated as to who they are, what they do in life. Most men want praise, so adoration. Men love to be adored. Men love to hear their wife tell them how amazing they are, how wonderful they are, how much, they're meant, to the family, what they mean to the family, how proud they are. And so there's that sense of adoration. The third one is affection. Most men love affection. Affection is a very important part of their life, very important part of their love language. And then fourthly, they just want to be acknowledged sometimes. They just want the acknowledgement of, hey, you're doing a good job. I see what you're doing. You work hard. Very similar to appreciation, but that acknowledgement that, we really are blessed. We really do care. We really are amazed at what you're doing and what you've accomplished for our family. And so that acknowledgement means a lot.
Yeah, and it's I think interesting that you pointed out that not every man or not everyone is going to have the same exact level that they need of these things, and men may have a desire to be held or feel secured and valued as well.
Exactly.
But so they're not exclusive to men and women. However, they do fall into primary camps, and it's important to know that because usually men operate in love out of the way they want to be loved, and women operate out of the way that and give love the way that they want to be loved. And a lot of times you can have a husband and wife that are trying to love each other, but they're doing it in the way they want to receive it and not necessarily in the way that their spouse wants to receive it.
And there's some, research done by various marriage and family therapists like Dr. John Gottman and others that have created and discovered that, men want respect and then love, and women want love then respect. Right. And so we see that even in the Bible. Husbands, love your wives the way Christ loves the church. And then the next verse says, and women, see to it that you respect your husbands. Right. So that love and respect is so very powerful and so very important. And how that's unpacked, how that's looked at is unique as well. Yeah.
And that is a good segue into our next question, because the question is, what are the love languages that are most needed?
Right. So love languages are something that most of our listening audience has heard about and hopefully applied. And what that simply means is that all of us have a way of receiving and understanding and embracing love. And so what it means is, I think Dr. Gary Chapman spoke to this, that basically all of us have this language, if you will, that says, I know that you love me because of what you do. And so, but sometimes those languages are different. For example, one of the love languages is time. Spend time with me. Sit down next to me. Watch a TV show with me. Go with me for a walk. Just drive with me to Walmart or wherever. Right. Go to the store with me. And so even though it's not very romantic per se, but for the person whose love language is time, when you take the time to be with them, that speaks love to them. So time is very important. Another one is words of affirmation. Tell me that I'm loved. Tell me that I'm interesting. Tell me that you care. Tell me how proud you are of me. Give me verbal blessing, if you will. Yeah. And so those words of affirmation are very important. Thirdly, for some couples is gifts. When you get a gift, when you bring a gift, special occasion, holiday, birthday, things of that nature, that means a lot. And sometimes giving a gift just because.
The just because
gift.
Yeah,
and I can't believe you were thinking of me. I can't believe you did that for me. That means so much to me. And now, they know that they are loved. Fourthly, very similar to that one, is acts of service. Yeah. So when, for example, and this is the example that I often use, but if the wife is at work or she's been gone for the day or whatever it may be, and you're home and you say, you know what, I'm going to clean up the entire place. I'm going to wash the dishes, fold the clothes, make the beds, vacuum the carpet, top to bottom. It's going to look like an English butler went through this place. Then those acts of service mean a lot. And whether it's cleaning or helping or doing something that is some sort of act of service for some people, that is meaningful and that is very loving to them because you did this for them. And then fifthly, and I would argue that most men fall into this camp, and that is physical touch and physical affection. Yeah. For a lot of people, they love to be touched and held and caressed and all the things that go with that physical touch that says, hey, I love you. And so these love languages are powerful. They're important. The trick and the key is to know what is the love language of your spouse and be willing to speak it. And so when you do that, you're telling your spouse and they're receiving from you, I love you. And that's key because we are wired to love and to be loved.
That is really, really good advice. And hopefully everyone has either read the 5 love languages or wrote that down and does a little evaluation of how they like to be loved and find out how your spouse likes to be loved.
And when you do that, you really are pouring into the emotional tank of your spouse.
Yes, indeed. Well, question number 6 for today says, what is needed, or what are the major topics that we need to discuss in premarital counseling?
Wow. I think in premarital counseling, it goes back to what we said earlier about the 6 pillars of marriage. But I think also, too, I think couples need to go in with a sense of recognizing that this is a very important stage of your relationship. But once the wedding is done, once the honeymoon is concluded, be ready and willing to face real life, which means be ready and willing to know how to solve problems. Be ready and willing to recognize the difference between the drama camp and the problem-solving camp. The drama camp, as we've said before, is when there's lots of noise and lots of words and lots of arguing, if you will, but nothing gets accomplished or done. That's drama. And drama is easy because, again, it's like when your car's stuck in the mud and you hit the accelerator and all you do is spin your wheels. That's easy.
Yeah.
And for a lot of couples, they have discovered that drama is easy. So they yell, they scream, they jump up and down, they throw a tantrum, they make threats. That's drama. But those who problem solve, that takes some effort. Mm-hmm. That takes some energy. That takes some rationalization. That takes, some responsibility. And so when you teach a couple how to solve problems, when you teach a couple that it's okay to take a time out, when you teach a couple that says, you know what, when you get to this level of anger or this level of debate or dissonance between you and your spouse, you're not accomplishing anything. You're just spinning your wheels. You're just causing drama. It's okay to take a time out. It's okay to say, we're going to come back to this. It's okay to say, we are going to take a little break, a reprieve, whatever, and we'll come back and maybe with some answers and begin to solve our problem. So one of the things that I encourage in premarital counseling is to be aware of the difference between drama and problem solving. And when they understand that difference, then we can begin to unpack how do you solve certain problems? How do you solve the problem of one spending too much and one's not is saving too much? How do you compromise? How do you come to some agreements? And the importance also too of having other people to coach you along the way, to counsel you along the way, to encourage you along the way, because so many couples really do not understand what they need to have a successful marriage. It's okay to find counsel. It's okay to talk to your pastor. It's okay to talk to an older couple who's made it to their 40th or 50th wedding anniversary and ask them, how did you do this? What do you suggest? And also be willing to comply to what is being said or to be submissive to what's being said. When I hear a person say, yeah, I know. No, you need to really let that sink in, really soak that in, really give that some thought, and then begin to apply what someone has begun to share with you and invest in your life.
Yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than when someone says, what should I do? And you give great advice and then they don't.
So you go like, well, okay. And again, giving information is the only thing we can do.
Right.
What you do with that information is now on the person. Mm-hmm. Counsel is simply that, giving information that may be helpful to you. You have to then take that information and do something with it. You have to take that information and apply it. You have to take that information and put it into action. Otherwise, things do not get better, and therefore they remain the same.
Yep. Well, we are out of time, so
Yes.
Looks like we got through 6 of 10 of our top 10 questions, and so we may have to come back and do a part 2.
We will do that.
But we are glad that you joined us on the Family Answer Man today. As always, we want to thank the incredible people at Winter's Air and Days Smokehouse and Specialty Meats for underwriting this show. We are, again, glad that you joined us. want to remind you that this is not a therapy session, and although we are able to answer some of the questions that you write in, we're not able to give specific advice to your situations. So we encourage you for those answers that you would seek professional counsel, and that you would get answers that are specific to your unique circumstances. We do hope that this episode of The Family Answer Man will encourage you and inspire you to make changes that are going to lead to a stronger, healthier, and happier family.